Hey Virgo, welcome to Sweet Tea Astrology and Tarot. My name is Erica. Welcome to the channel. So glad that you found me. This is your February 2017 astrology video where I'm going to talk about the stars, but I'm also going to pull some tarot cards and some oracle cards for you. But first, Virgo, why don't you sit a spell so we can talk about your stars? Pardon me. So, on February 2nd, February 3rd or 4th, depending on where you live on the planet, we're going to have Venus, the planet of love, beauty, harmony, money, and resources, moving into Aries, joining up with Mars and Uranus. This is the 8th house. Virgo, Virgo, Virgo. 8th house is ruled by Scorpio. It's the house of life, death, and rebirth. It's the house of primal or basic or human instinct. It's the house of regeneration, metamorphosis, and transformation. It is the house of other people's money and sexuality. Venus meeting up with Mars and Uranus in the 8th house screams a secret lover kind of situation. Or some really hot, passionate, quickie sex between a partnership. If that's not the case, then I see it being I see it possible if you're in a bad potentially violent relationship, please be careful, because I have a bad feeling about this as well for y'all in the 8th house, because it's the house of life, death, and rebirth. So life is fine. Rebirth is fine. Death is a little interesting because Mars is in there and Uranus. It could be a shock. That kind of thing. And that's why I prefaced that. And it makes me nervous saying that as well. But it doesn't have to be that sort of negative thing. But if you do have that propensity in your relationship, then be aware that it's not going to be a situation that goes away in February. You're going to be revisiting these issues in March and in April, Virgo, because Venus will go retrograde in this house and back into Pisces and then back into your 8th house. And I'll be here to talk more about it when that happens, but this is your heads up. So pay attention to what's going on now, because you will see vibratory echoes in your world. Maybe different faces, maybe different names, but it's going to resonate and smell and taste and feel the same. Now, on the 7th or 8th of the month, we're going to have Mercury moving into Aquarius, meeting up with the Sun. So there will be focus on communication, thought, and movement in the 6th house. The 6th house is the house of Virgo. It's the house of work and health, or the competencies and skills that you bring to the services that you provide. It is your daily to-do list. It is the daily grind. It's how you get things done. So there could be a lot of focus in that area of life for you. Now, on the 10th or 11th of the month, depending on where you live on the planet, we have a lunar eclipse at 22 degrees of Leo. And this is another reason why I asked you to be careful, especially if you're in a situation where there has been violence in especially a romantic relationship. And I say this because this lunar eclipse is occurring in the 12th house. And the 12th house is the house of secret enemies. It's the house of self-undoing. It's the house of limitation and repression. It's the house of karma. It's the house of dreams. Lunar eclipses are associated with endings, changes, resolutions. Sometimes you don't have any choice in. The Sabian symbol for 22 degrees of Leo reads, "In a circus, the bareback rider displays her dangerous skill." Now, up until this point, you are the 6th video I've done, the 4th today. I have read this Sabian symbol in 4 different videos, and the only time I've ever put any vocal tone inflection on the word dangerous was your video, Virgo. I pay attention to those types of things. Lunar eclipse in the 12th house, 22 degrees of Leo. Virgo, I suggest you look at your chart and see what's going on for you in that area of life. It's the 12th house I think of as the darker inner recesses of the mind, where it's the most difficult part to see. It's the most difficult house in the zodiac wheel, that astrological wheel, to see, to interpret. Forewarned is forearmed, Virgo. I don't want to terrify or scare anyone, but given the fact that my best friend's mother was murdered she was murdered on Memorial Day of 2016 by her husband, and he then committed suicide. That is a very hot button trigger issue for me, and if I see things like this kind of lining up to where it looks like it could be, I can't help but to give you that warning and see it that way. It doesn't have to be that way. Like I said, it could be very much a secret lovers type thing, or just a lot of heated, spontaneous passion between you and your lover if you're in a committed partnership. Could be a lot of flirty energy. But it could also be a time of birth for some of you Virgos. I was going to say Virgoans, but that's not really the appropriate way to say that, right? Anyways, moving on. The 18th or 19th of the month, depending on where you live on the planet, we will have the Sun moving into Pisces and meeting Neptune. The Sun moving into Pisces is going to be in your 7th house. The rest of the month is going to be peppered through your 7th house. The 7th house is the house of Libra. It's the house of your partnerships and and how you identify who you are as a human being through those relationships and interactions with those people in your close inner circles. It also deals with counseling, and it also deals with open enemies. So, it could be that you are dealing with partnership issues, relationship issues where people aren't staying in their lane, or there's boundary issues. It could be that you are dealing with counseling, and if that's the case, there's going to be 6 months of tremendous growth for you because the solar eclipse is occurring in that 7th house. But if you're not utilizing it in that 7th house through counseling or your partnerships and relationships, then it could also be dealing with open enemies. Open enemies are people that you have an open beef with. This could be someone you would testify against in an open court of law. Or I also see it as arguing with someone in an online forum, like Facebook, Twitter, even on YouTube comments. Now, like I mentioned, that solar eclipse. On the 25th or 26th of the month, we will be experiencing a solar eclipse at 8 degrees of Pisces. This will be heavily influenced by the planet of Neptune. Neptune represents nebulousness, illusion, and imagination, also addiction, and escapist type leanings or escapist like tendencies, let me put it like that. This is, once again, 7th house, partnerships, relationships, and how you identify who you are through those partnerships with others, counseling, and open enemies. The Sabian symbol for 8 degrees of Pisces reads, "A jockey spurs his horse, intent on outdistancing his rivals." And I don't know if I mentioned it earlier or not because I kind of feel like I've been rambling. And I have a little bit of brain fog right now. But there's synchronicity between these two Sabian symbols dealing with horseback riders. And you have to become one with that animal. You have to become one with that horse. You have to display a tremendous amount of poise and skill and strength and grace. You have to be able to not only ride this giant beast, but also bend its will to yours by making it move left or right. or stop or go or jump. I've never really done that sort of extensive horseback riding, but the idea is I started thinking about what each of these Sabian symbols looked like and what it took for that rider to display what they were doing in these action-oriented Sabian symbols. And while I was doing that, I got to thinking even more so about the Saturn square Neptune issues that we dealt with through all of 2016. Because Saturn is in Sagittarius. Saturn, being in Sagittarius, well, I'm repeating myself. Sagittarius is the centaur, and that's half man, half horse. And Neptune has been in Pisces for quite some time. So I feel like these Sabian symbols are also showing that there is vibratory reflections on that 2016 period of Saturn square Neptune, and that some of the lessons that we're going to be getting from these eclipses are echoes from what we went through in 2016. The final energy I want to speak about is occurring on the 25th or 26th of the month. That's Mercury moving into Pisces. Mercury is the planet of thought, movement, and communication, moving into the 7th house with the Sun and Neptune. It really looks like you are going to be dealing with boundary issues. You are going to be dealing with boundaries in communication, boundaries in thought, boundaries in movement in your partnerships, dealing with counseling and dealing with open enemies. It's going to be highlighting these issues for you. So Virgo, what I'm going to do now is transition over to the tarot cards. But before I get to shuffling, I'm going to show you the oracle card boxes. I'm going to pull an oracle card from the Sage Goddess Gemstone Oracle deck. Oh, my nose has been itching this entire time. I'm also going to pull a card for you from the Sacred Rebels Oracle deck by Elena Fairchild. The artwork is by Autumn Sky Morrison. Now, I'm going to shuffle for you. In Virgo, I'm going to take this time to say that if this reading does not resonate for you, then I invite you to check your moon and rising sign, because you are more than just a Virgo. You have a lot of different placements. And if you do not know what I'm talking about, then I invite you to Google the words free natal chart, type in your birth information, and that will bring up a chart that should show you where all of your planetary placements were at the moment of your birth. So use your exact birthplace and exact birth time. If you don't have that information, then it's going to be a little bit more difficult to generate you a chart. But you generate that chart. If you can't figure out where your moon or your rising sign are, send me a copy, a screenshotted copy of the birth chart, and I will do my best to give you your moon and rising placements, as I feel that is something that everybody needs to know about themselves, so that you can empower yourselves through readings like this. Not just mine, but other people as well, because I believe that knowledge is power. I've actually had a few people reach out to me and say, why are you giving out that information for free? You should be charging. But I feel like it's something that it takes me 5 seconds to look at and tell you. And I think that the information that you receive is very powerful if you are willing to do the extra leg on the work of watching the videos and doing the chart and sending it to me and then letting me reply. But I will do that if I get the email when I see it. Mind you, some of the emails go to spam. Some of the emails get lost in the shuffle of everything else that's coming into my email box. But I get back to you as soon as I can. So, what I'm going to do now, Virgo, is cut the deck, because I'm done with my little spiel about your rising and moon sign. Sorry about that truck in the background. I live across the street from a bar in Louisiana, and Them redneck boys like them redneck toys, and they can be a little loud. So, no judgment, just saying. Now, from the Sacred Rebels Oracle deck, for my Virgo friends and viewers, my youngest son is a 0-degree Virgo sun, and he has the same rising sign and rising degree as me, which is pretty stinking cool. My oldest son is also a 0-degree baby. He's a 0-degree Taurus. So I had 2 earth sign babies for sun signs. But there's a lot of water energy in them too. My oldest has a Cancer moon, and my youngest has a Pisces moon. So, needless to say, they both go to sleep with the TV on. From the Sage Goddess Gemstone Oracle deck for my Virgo viewers and friends. And as a side note, while I'm shuffling, I had a pretty eventful last 3 weeks. I had intended on getting these videos up much sooner, but life happens. And I'll be putting up a story time video associated with these videos as well if you are interested in hearing about how I received some internal prompts and messages from my spirit guides that ultimately helped me save my best friend's life. The same best friend that lost her mom due to the domestic suicide, or the domestic murder-suicide situation back from Memorial Day. It was very interesting, and I figure some of my viewers would like to hear the story. But anyways, I won't do that here. What I'm going to do now, Virgo, though, is hit the pause button, flip these cards over, do the tarot math, and I'll be right back with your story. Hang tight, y'all. So, Virgo, I've got your cards. Let's get started. The underlying theme or overarching energy for this reading is the Five of Wands. I have noticed a synchronistic pattern between all 4 of the videos that I've shot so far. Every one of the videos has had a horse show up, a character on a horse, and at least one of the cards that has shown up. Pretty interesting, seeing as though both of the Sabian symbols indicated individuals riding horses. Can't help but notice those kinds of things. So, 6, because of this number up here, representing the 6th house, ruled by you, Virgo, the house of work and health, or competency and skills that you bring to the services that you provide. It also speaks to the daily grind, the to-do list, the daily minutia, and how you get things done. We've got Mercury moving into the 6th house on the 7th or 8th of the month, depending on where you live on the planet. And it could feel as though you are dealing with the because the sun starts out the month in the 6th house as well. Could be that you're dealing with issues of work or health and communication coming about. The fact that this is really like riding around on your high horse is what I see in this card. It can be the victory card as well. Returning from battle is another way of looking at it. The wands represent fire sign energy, and the fire signs are Aries, Leo, and Sagittarius. We are having that lunar eclipse in the fire sign of Leo. And Leo can be a proud energy. Leo is the king of the forest, right? And also the king of the zodiac. Virgo, I feel like this is you. Something else that I also see this as, and this is the first time that I've seen this as this card, but it's relevant given the energies at play right now. I also see these wands as protest signs. I just saw that. So it may be that you're protesting about work, or protesting about women's health, or just health in general, protesting changes to the Affordable Care Act, or something to that effect, protesting about the water pipeline, possibly as well, because that affects work and health. It's interesting how that stuff kind of shows up. The first card in the top 3 for clarity is the Three of Swords. And I can't sugarcoat this for you. This is the heartache card. This is the grief card. This is the sadness card. The 3 up top represents the 3rd house on the astrological wheel for me, and that's the house of Gemini. It's the house of communication, short distance trips. It governs siblings, cousins, neighbors, and people in your neighborhood. Could be that you're getting bad news about somebody in that area of life, possibly a cousin, a neighbor, even a sibling. If that's not the case, you could be dealing with possible heartache, dealing with communication in some way. Could be dealing with an air sign because the swords represent air sign energy, and that is Gemini, Libra, and Aquarius. It's the second time I've mentioned Gemini, if we're keeping score. I think that this is indicative of the lunar eclipse because of this giant heart in the middle. Leo rules the heart, and this lunar eclipse is occurring in Leo at 22 degrees. It's occurring in your 12th house. The 12th house is the house of limitations, repression, karma, self-undoing, and secret enemies. It literally is the house of secrets. It's the house of secrets that you keep from yourself and from others, and it's the secrets that others keep from you. It's the darkest, most inner recesses of the mind, and it's really the hardest house on the astrological wheel to see, to interpret, if you will. Could also be dealing with dreams. You may be getting communication. You may be getting heartbreaking communication through dreams. I know I do that sometimes. I've actually gotten some pretty terrifying messages in dreams, to be completely honest with you. The second card that showed up for you is a Major Arcana card. This is the 14th card of the Major Arcana, Temperance. 1 plus 4 is 5, and that speaks to the Leo-ruled house of creation, that creative spark. It's the house that I like to think of as having your DNA and fingerprints all over it because it's where you have the most skin in the game. It's the house of romance and where you fall in love. It's your social circles. It's your social life. It's how you seek your pleasure. It's the break room. It's where you go to blow off steam. It's where you make your children. It's where you create your children. It's the house of creativity and where the artist makes his masterpiece. Leo rules the 5th house as well. Now this card, Temperance, represents the zodiac sign of Sagittarius, and this is where it gets interesting, and also ties into the synchronicity that I was speaking of earlier, especially dealing with the Sabian symbols. I brought up a situation of the Saturn square Neptune. Temperance represents Sagittarius, and that's the 9th house. You aren't having any 9th house energy, but the 9th house deals with higher education, long distance trips. It deals with foreign people, foreign places, foreign things. It's your worldview expanded through study or travel. This card indicates a need for balance and or moderation. It could be that you are learning how to balance and find moderation, or it could be indicating that you need balance or moderation. It just depends on what's going on in your general world. It could also be that you're going through a spiritual awakening, a spiritual epiphany. People who are watching videos like this usually are having that third eye, crown chakra situation going on. I also want to indicate that I don't think that drinking is a good thing for you right now. Whenever I see a character with cups in their hands, I think of excess in drink or excess in escapist tendencies. So that could be alcoholic tendencies. That could be drug abuse tendencies. That could be overindulging in watching your favorite reality TV or gaming, whatever it is that you do to kind of check out and not have to deal with stuff. That's what I'm talking about. Could be that you're overindulging in that to avoid things. Some, maybe not all. The final card that fell for you is the Four of Wands, and I see this as the happy celebration. And this is like the planned celebration. I really kind of see this as like the Valentine's Day night. And that doesn't apply for everyone. There are some singles out there as well, but this is like this paired with this is like a victory card for me. This is a triumph in some way or overcoming something. Health and work and health related, possibly also tied to the home. Dealing with an Aries, a Leo, or a Sagittarius because of the fire sign energy with the wands. But these are individuals who are happy and celebrating, and this is a happy, like the happy home, happy celebration. During the holidays, I saw this as like the Hallmark Polaroid postcard moment. You know, everybody around the turkey carving and smiling, everyone around the tree opening presents and enjoying each other's company, not hating each other and turning into that SNL skit. It wasn't this past Thanksgiving, but it was the one before when Adele had just released that song Hello from the Other Side, and they did the skit of the family saying that was the only thing they could agree on. That's more like what the reality of the holidays probably were for a lot of us, but this is indicative of that ideal, the Norman Rockwell ideal happy home. And I keep saying home because of this number 4 right here. The 4 represents the Cancerian ruled house of home and family, or roots and foundations. Home is where you live or where you consider home to be, and family is who you share that home with. That can be your parents, that can be your spouse or your partner, that can be your children or your fur baby, that could be your house guest, your housemate, or your roommates. Or your internal or external roots and foundation, however and wherever applicable. Now, I did the tarot math for you, and we ended up with 27. 2 plus 7 is 9, and that speaks to that Sagittarius ruled house. This card is representative of the sign of Sagittarius. Sagittarius is that the Sagittarius is like the centaur with the bow and arrow, and they're pulling back that arrow to let it fly and let it go as high and as far as it can. That worldview expanded through study or travel. It's a spiritual. It's a spiritual sign. They can be very, very spiritual, and that can be spiritual in this realm of spiritual, or that could be spiritual in like organized religion as well. They're very much seekers. They want to know the truth, and they're willing to study for it. They're willing to travel for it, and they value that sort of stuff. And like I said, you aren't having any necessary ninth house energy. It could be that you're just dealing with those sort of aspects. Now, the next card that I want to share with you, I'm sorry, I got distracted, is the Sage Goddess Gemstone Oracle card, and this is the Shungite card. It deals with cleansing, purification, and transformation. It helps heal and amplify the vibration of the root chakra. It reads, Shungite is a grounding stone. It is known as the Great Purifier. It removes unwanted energies and impurities from people, places, and spaces while healing the lower chakras. You've pulled this card because you need to release any negativity residing within your auric body. Meditate with Shungite to free yourself from harmful emotions, to filter energies around you, and to feel deeper alignment. The Sage, I just read you the Sage Goddess card. The Sacred Rebels Oracle card by Elena Fairchild that I pulled for you is The Word Wants to Be Written. And this is the 42nd card of the Sacred Rebels Oracle deck. 4 plus 2 is 6, and that speaks to that 6th house of work and health. That's the house that you rule, Virgo, the day-to-day grind. Mercury is moving into this house at the beginning of the month. Mercury is the planet of thought, movement, and communication. And with this card indicating the word wants to be written, it indicates that there is communication either being given to you or that you need to express. Now, with this lunar eclipse occurring in the 12th house, I feel as though dream journaling would be very, very, very powerful for you for the next 6 months. I feel like there will be many, many spiritual downloads or many messages that you get through the dream state. This card indicates that what you dream of, seek, create, live, or manifest is something that comes very natural to you. So now is a time for you to drop your defenses and get into the grit. Confront the power of any old conditioning and the chains that it has over you. Because now is a time for tremendous self-love and a radical new approach of who the hell cares? I'm here and I'm worthy of love. That kind of attitude. This card is an invitation to let go of your past hurts and a reminder that they're in your way. This card beckons you to step firmly over those limitations, those past hurts. Step firmly over them and onto your new path. You have Uranus in the 8th house. That is the planet of shocks and surprises. That is also dealing with rebellion. You could be getting shocking messages from loved ones who have passed. From like spirit guides. What's interesting is my fiance actually told me of a dream that he had just last night. And it's a dream that he has. It's a recurring dream. The messages are different, but it's the same person giving him these messages. It's an older woman, and he says that her form isn't very strong, but it's, for me, the way that I interpret him speaking of it, it's like the form doesn't matter, it's the message that's important. So she's being just striking enough to get his attention and make him remember this dream. You know what I mean? Something like that, where you're getting undeniable messages. You're getting undeniable prompts. You're getting undeniable guidance from someplace, somewhere. And for the majority of you, I believe that it will be occurring in your 12th house. And that's the House of Dreams. So, Virgo, I hope you enjoyed this reading. If you did, please like, share, and subscribe. If you already have, I thank you from the bottom of my very grateful heart. I'll be around mid-month to give you some more cards and talk a little bit more about what's going on in the sky. But I can't get that series started until I get finished with this one. So, I hope you're well. Please take care of yourself. Please be kind to yourself and save some of that kindness for others, because we're all going through secret battles some of us may never speak about to another living soul. I hope you're well, Virgo. Take care. And until next time, namaste and bye, y'all.